Tonight on Reporting Scotland, a jury hears that the man accused of killing Emma Caldwell took police to the same woods where her body was found. Ian Packer's also said to have admitted he had lied to detectives about not knowing her. Packer denies murdering Emma Caldwell. Also in tonight's programme, as the fatal accident inquiry into the deaths of two teenagers who took their own lives at Polmont Young Offenders Institution comes to a close, we hear from the parents of Katie Allen. Her mother says she's fighting for both Katie and William Brown.
We promised William's mum when she was alive, that we would, and she asked us to, and that had to happen.
Still to come, the forester who says he might have to destroy millions of trees because of Scottish Government budget cuts.
We're in a cycle, we have a 3-year cycle, but we have 10 million trees which we'll have to destroy this spring.
The trees were being planted as part of the government's expanding forestry targets, key to tackling climate change. We hear from 3 women who say dry January helped them change their relationship with alcohol.
Coming up in tonight's sport, with the Six Nations about to get underway, Finn Russell says Scotland must drown out the noise at the Principality Stadium if they're to win in Cardiff for the first time in 22 years.
Hello, I'm Sally Magnuson. Welcome to Friday's programme. A jury has heard that the man accused of murdering Emma Caldwell took detectives to the woods where he's alleged to have strangled her 18 years ago. The High Court in Glasgow heard that Ian Packer told them he had taken Emma to Lanarkshire on up to 6 occasions. When they asked him to show them where, he was said to have directed them to the place where her body was found. Our Home Affairs correspondent David Cowan reports.
A day after the jury were taken to see Limefield Woods near Biggar, they heard that detectives investigating Emma Caldwell's murder were brought to the exact same place by the man in the dock. In the weeks after Emma was found in the woods in 2005, Ian Packer was interviewed by the police as a witness. He told them he had been using prostitutes for 12 years, only knew Emma Caldwell by sight, and had never had sexual contact with her. In August 2006, he was interviewed again.
These words attributed to Ian Packer were read out to the jury. In previous statements, I have told the police that I didn't know Emma Caldwell. This is a lie. I did know her. I've been with her 10 or 11 times, maybe more, maybe less. Ian Packer was quoted as saying his last sexual encounter with Emma Caldwell had been early in 2005 and that he had never taken her out of Glasgow.
Ian Packer told the police he had taken sex workers to a lay-by surrounded by fir trees near Biggar. He said,
"There was one other girl that I was with in the area near Biggar, Emma Caldwell. I was terrified of telling you in case I got the blame for what happened to her. Although I was with her in that place, I wasn't in any way responsible for her death. I have seen the media coverage and read the newspapers about Emma's death, but I had no idea her body was found near to where I went with the prostitutes. I was only at that spot once with Emma. I took another 5 girls to that area."
Ian Packer said his use of sex workers was an addiction, but insisted he was never violent towards them. Retired Detective David Barr said that in March 2007, the police asked Ian Packer to show them where the place near Biggar was. He got into a car with 3 officers and directed them to Limefield Woods. Afterwards, he gave another statement.
In the statement, Ian Packer said he'd taken Emma Caldwell to the woods 6 times at the most. He said she was always happy to go there and he liked it because of the buzz he got out of it. He's denied murdering Emma in the woods and leaving her body there to defeat the ends of justice. David Cowan, Reporting Scotland, Glasgow.
Over the last month, we've heard shocking evidence about the final hours of Katie Allen and William Brown, who both took their lives in Polmont Young Offenders Institution. Katie's parents have campaigned for improvements there. As the fatal accident inquiry into their deaths draws to a close, they've spoken to Katrina Renton about Katie and William and their hopes for change.
Katie Allen was sent to Polmont Young Offenders Institution on the 7th of March 2018. She was jailed after she knocked unconscious a 15-year-old boy while driving over the alcohol limit. The boy's family asked for Katie not to be jailed, but she was sentenced to 16 months in prison.
Don't get me wrong, Katrina, I was furious at Katie. Of course, it was her mum. Stuart was angry as well. She had made a huge mistake, you know, and we had, but once she went to custody, we thought we just need to keep her safe. We always knew she would be badly affected by the experience if she had lived. She was 20 when she went in, 21 when she died. She had lost 80%, if not more, of her hair, and it was horrendous. It was horrendous.
William Brown, also known as William Lindsay, was 16 years old. He was arrested after carrying a knife into a police station. He was remanded to Polmont because there were no places available in a secure children's unit. 3 days later, he was dead. The joint inquiry looked into the circumstances that led to Katie and William's deaths. You have managed to give both of these young people a voice.
Well, that's because we promised William's mum when she was alive, you know, that we would. And she asked us to, and that had to happen. But thank God we have, because what we've then uncovered is so many young people, not all, but majority from backgrounds similar to William's, that are already vulnerable, that end up in a system that makes them more vulnerable.
Before Polmont, William had been in care for much of his life. His dad and half-brother were represented at the inquiry, seeking answers. Evidence was heard that William had thought about taking his life on numerous occasions. His social worker, Mark MacDonald, knew William well. He said his mum, Christine, was very proud of him and he was hoping to explore college options. William was a teenager who had bags of potential, and everyone that knew him would agree. Katie was a student and very close to her mum, dad and brother Scott.
An amazing young woman she was. We probably smile more than we cry, you know, when we think about her, don't we?
Following this inquiry, the sheriff will make his determination on lessons learned and changes needed.
Ultimately, what we want is those determinations actually turned into something that has to be actioned, and not something that just ends up as a paper copy that, you know, is there to read but not actually result in any change.
Nothing can ever bring William and Katie back, but it's hoped their stories will make a difference for young people in the future.
Justice is as personal as our grief, you know, and for us, I think we know with certainty what Katie would want is this not happening to someone else, and I think for us that feels like justice.
It's a heartbreaking story, Katrina. When do you get the outcome to the inquiry that's just coming to a close now?
Well, we've just heard 4 weeks of evidence, that's the vast majority. There's a further evidential session later this month, and then submissions will be made by the parties, that includes the Crown and the families. Then the sheriff will make his determinations on whether Katie and William's deaths could have been prevented and recommendations for change. Now, Sheriff Simon Collins, who presides over this inquiry, is also due to preside at a forthcoming fatal accident inquiry later this year into the death of another young person who took his life at Polmont, Jack Mackenzie, who was 20 when he was found dead in his cell. Now, the sheriff suggested during the inquiry that he would possibly make his determination into all 3 deaths, Katie, William and Jack's, after he has heard Jack's inquiry.
Picking up Katie's father's point is there any guarantee that any recommendations that the sheriff makes ultimately will be implemented?
Well, Sally, there are some changes that are already underway. Since William's death, there is a bill going through the Scottish Parliament that proposes 16 and 17-year-olds in the main should not be dealt with in the adult prison system. But we heard in the inquiry about previous fatal accident inquiries into young people's deaths in custody, which have made recommendations, but yet Katie and William and Jack still died. Now, the difference with Katie and William's inquiry is just how high profile it has been. Sheriff Collins said the purpose of this inquiry is to try and learn lessons from the past and change things for the future. And he said in the inquiry, if not, why are we all here? A question that Katie and William's family's representatives have been making throughout the inquiry.
Katrina, thanks for your reporting on this. Some of the other stories today now. A 37-year-old woman has been arrested in connection with a death in South Lanarkshire last year. 61-year-old Anne Call was found with serious injuries in a flat on Newfield Place in Rutherglen on the 22nd of December. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Two women who died after a flat fire in Aberdeen have been described as kind and loving sisters. 24-year-old Shikshia and Anshal Subedi, who was 28, died after a blaze at a property in the city's Backhilton Road on Monday evening. It's understood they originally came from Nepal. Police said there didn't appear to be any suspicious circumstances. A forester from Murray says he might have to destroy millions of trees after the Scottish Government slashed the budget for tree planting. Ronald Christie from Fochabers says that unless ministers change their mind, 10 million young trees will have to be burnt, followed by a similar number next year. Our environment correspondent Kevin Keane reports.
It's peak tree planting season, and at this nursery there are 130 million to choose from. Many of these have been growing here for the past 3 years.
Yeah, this is Sitka spruce, which is 70% of our production.
But with a 41% cut coming to the Woodland Grants budget, the owner says many now won't be used.
The crop's going to have to be destroyed, unfortunately. We can't keep we're in a cycle, with a 3-year cycle, but we have 10 million trees which we'll have to destroy this spring. Depending on the funding, if it's not available the following year, we have another 10 million which are following through.
And when you say you'll have to destroy them, what do you mean by that?
We have simply to lift them out of the ground, let them dry out and set fire to them.
Without the money, many rural workers fear their jobs will be lost. Dozens are employed here in sorting and packing the trees.
We need the funding, because we can't do our jobs without the funding. And with the whole environment and global warming, we need all the stuff we can do and all the help we can get, really.
New trees in particular play a really important role in tackling climate change. They absorb planet-warming carbon dioxide from the atmosphere as they grow.
I'll bring some more trees over to you and then we'll move on to the pine areas down in the north.
People like Shane have been recruiting workers the Scottish Government said were needed, workers he now fears he'll lose.
You know, it's a cost of living crisis. If you tell people there's no work for a month, they're going to have to go elsewhere and there's no consistency of work. So why would you want to stay in a sector that you're not sure if you're going to have work throughout the year? And
the industry body is deeply worried about what this cut will mean for its long-term viability.
And what does it say about the Scottish Government's commitment to net zero?
Well, you've got to question whether there is a real commitment to net zero. As I said, we're talking about such a small amount of money for such a big carbon impact. And I cannot see the government hitting its targets for net zero without tree planting.
The Scottish Government blames its funding settlement from Westminster, but say they'll still be planting more trees than the rest of the UK combined. Kevin Keane reporting, Scotland.
A £2 billion tram extension, all-day bus lanes, banning through traffic from the city centre. Just some of the proposals being considered to tackle congestion in Edinburgh. Critics accuse the council of being anti-car, but the city's transport convener insists there's a moral obligation to tackle climate change. He believes congestion charging should play a part in cutting the number of vehicles on the road. Stephen Gordon has more.
The morning commute into Edinburgh, an ever-growing city searching for solutions to its congestion problem.
That's probably the worst bit, but there are various pinch points along the whole of the Cowgate, so the whole thing needs to be sorted.
One proposal is to ban through traffic from the city centre, starting this year with the Cowgate.
We need to be sure that displacement of traffic is considered, so it's part of an overall plan. We don't want to create problems in another street by solving them in one street.
The restrictions are part of the council's wider strategy to convince more people to switch to public transport. Measures like all-day bus lanes are designed to speed up journey times, improvement that council leaders say is a prerequisite to revisiting an old idea.
No, do not support the council's preferred strategy. 133,678.
In 2005, Edinburgh residents voted against a congestion charge, but the idea is back on councillors' lips.
So this time the approach would be clearer and it'd be much more focused on vehicles coming into Edinburgh from surrounding local authorities, where the drivers are choosing not to use a viable alternative public transport.
We're told that road pricing is at least 5 years away. In neighbouring East Lothian, people in Musselburgh gave us their thoughts.
I mean, it's hard enough getting a parking space, never mind anything else, and now we pay just to get in Edinburgh. think it's a bit scandalous, actually, I do.
That means as I would need to curtail myself from coming into Edinburgh to see my grandchildren and my family.
I think it's a good idea just because of the congestion and like air and pollution and stuff like that, I think.
Edinburgh's cyclists, meanwhile, have noticed devil in the detail of proposals for a £2 billion tram extension. One option for the new route would take it along this busy off-road cycle path, which cyclists would then be discouraged from using.
At a time when Edinburgh is planning lots of really interesting and innovative measures to improve the provision for cyclists, it seems really ironic that it's coming alongside a plan that will cut a really important chunk of the network.
The destination is fewer cars on Edinburgh's roads, but the journey doesn't look straightforward. Stephen Godden, reporting Scotland.
It's Friday evening, and people who've completed dry January might be thinking about celebrating in time-honoured fashion, but some decide to keep going. Ian Hamilton's been speaking to 3 women who say dry January helped them to change their relationship with alcohol.
My name is Ailsa Herd, I'm from Larbert.
My name's Nicola White and I'm from Midlothian.
I'm Rachel Hill and I'm from Newcastle, moving to Edinburgh.
These women said goodbye to alcohol last January, and they say the health benefits have been remarkable. In this Edinburgh cafe, I had a chance to sit down and chat with them about their life-changing year.
I had a load of reasons why I wanted to look at how I was drinking alcohol and not just drinking it mindlessly, which I probably was, to celebrate, to commiserate, to do whatever, feel different ways, or maybe numb things out. So I wanted to try and not do that and see how I got on. And there, things have been, transformative.
Towards the end of 2022, I had been working really hard, long hours. So in the January, I was really poorly and just thought, I need to make a change. And I thought I would try dry January just to break the cycle.
I'm in my 30s now, and actually when I was at school, I used to share a bottle of whiskey with a friend instead of actually going into school. And then I thought I'd controlled it for a while. And then in my 30s again, it just became out of control. Nearly 2 years ago on Valentine's Day, I just thought enough is enough, I feel like it's a superpower that I can say, I don't want to drink, or I want to do something else. And I've got so much time back now that I didn't have before.
What about you, Nicola?
Now that I've completely moderated my alcohol, I don't feel like I ever really need to drink. I do things now that I haven't done in years because I probably didn't have the energy previously. I just feel like I am renewed.
What will be your health? How do you feel about your health now?
My sleep's better, my eating's better, my mental health's better, even my skin, my hair, just everything.
There you are. Let's get to night sport now with Amy and Six Nations.
It's finally here, Sally, and Scotland fans, they will have fond memories of the last meeting against Wales, that thumping win for Scotland, but that was at Murrayfield in Cardiff.
Oh yeah, Cardiff.
It's a different story. That's where we're starting. Thanks very much. Hello there. Finn Russell believes Scotland must silence the Welsh crowd if they're going to end their long wait for a win in Cardiff. Scotland kick off their Six Nations campaign against Warren Gatland's side tomorrow afternoon at the Principality Stadium, and our reporter Andy Burke is there.
Well, this stadium has been something of a graveyard for Scotland teams in recent years. You have to go back 22 years to find the last Scottish victory in this stadium. They've lost on their last 11 visits here. It's perhaps not the strongest Wales team they'll be coming up against that we've seen in recent times. A very inexperienced side Warren Gatland has named for this one, but any Wales team in this stadium provides a big challenge, and the Scotland captain Finn Russell says it's a challenge his team are ready for.
We can't take this Welsh team lightly at all. They're brilliant players at club level, and when they come to Wales and put the international top on, it's a different team you face, obviously. I think we've got to come here with full belief and confidence in ourselves, but we know that we need to start this game as quick as we can to try and take the crowd out it and to try and get our foothold into the game early on.
Well, this is one of the great Six Nations fixture, one in which the travelling support comes in great numbers, and this weekend is no different. The Scotland fans are here en masse and they arrive in Cardiff hopeful that their team can get their Six Nations campaign off to a winning start.
We know they're going to win.
Confident?
Yes, very.
Well, I'm just hoping we can break the 22-year taboo.
It's not been a happy hunting ground for Scotland,
but all the aspects are looking our way, so let's keep our fingers crossed.
It's not often we come down to Cardiff and think that we're going to win, right? And more often than not, we come away with our tails between our legs. But I'm pretty sure, given the team that's out there and the trouble that Wales have at the moment, that we're going to come away with a victory tomorrow.
It's been 22 years since Scotland have won in Cardiff. Does that worry you at all, that record?
Well, it's not the greatest of results to be going against, but hey, this will be the year it changes, eh?
First time I've ever been here, and well, he says he's been here when the roof was closed, so full volume for the Welsh, but these bad boys will be louder, eh?
Well, as you can see, the roof here at the Principality Stadium is closed, and it will remain closed for the match on Saturday. That comes after Scotland reversed their earlier request that the roof be open for the match. What does that mean? Well, it will mean a cauldron of noise here. This is one of the best atmospheres in all of rugby. Scotland will need to overcome that, and a Wales team with nothing to lose if they're to finally put their Cardiff curse to bed.
Andy Burke there. The bagpipes will make all the difference. To football now, and Celtic could be without defender Cameron Carter-Vickers for 3 weeks as he recovers from injury, and even longer for this man here, Reo Hatate. The midfielder has suffered a leg muscle injury playing for Japan in the Asian Cup and could be missing for 5 or 6 weeks. That's according to club manager Brendan Rodgers. Hatate has made only 3 appearances for Celtic since scoring this goal against Kilmarnock in early October, and his absence will be all the more keenly felt with Celtic selling David Turnbull to Cardiff City. Rangers boss Philippe Clement admits he's unhappy at only being able to make 3 changes to his Europa League squad, but says he's still pleased with the club's business during the transfer window. The signing of Colombian winger Oscar Cortez on loan from Lens on deadline day was his 3rd new recruit, but with defenders Reid van Yilmaz and Leon Balogun left out of the Euro squad at the start of the season by previous boss Michael Beale, Clement says he'll have tough decisions to make ahead of their last 16 tie.
Yeah, I'm not happy with the rule, but the rule is the rule, of course, for all the teams, and I understand also the idea behind it. I was not really totally aligned with how the European list was started beginning of the season, but it was also what it is, so I can only make 3 changes now.
Aberdeen interim manager Peter Levin says it's been a tough week at Pittodrie following the departure of Barry Robson as the Dons prepare to face both Celtic and Rangers in the next 4 days. Former Kilmarnock player Levin alongside Scott Anderson were both part of Robson's coaching setup and will take the reins until the club appoint a new permanent manager. Aberdeen are currently 8th in the Premiership with just 6 league wins this season and welcome league leaders Celtic this weekend.
That was a difficult couple of days. With Barry and Aggers, a lot of respect for both of them. I think a lot of respect at the club as well. But just got to be positive and get the boys up and at it for the game tomorrow. We're Aberdeen. Celtic are coming to our home pitch. We gave them a tough game at the start of the season against them. So I'm just taking one game as it is. I've got Celtic tomorrow and see how that goes. Then I'll prepare after that for Rangers.
Yes, certainly a big few days for Aberdeen. And Sally, it was a quiet transfer window, but if you do want to see any of the details, of course, just head to the BBC Sports Scotland website and they will all be there.
Absolutely. And there's a rugby awaiting us at the
Yes,
weekend. That's going to be fun. Thanks a lot. Now it's over to Laura Miller and Graham Stewart to find out what's happening on BBC Scotland at 7 o'clock.
Hello. As that inquiry into the deaths of 2 young people at Polmont Young Offenders Institution comes to a close, we speak to the solicitor acting on behalf of their families about the likelihood of change happening.
We'll take stock of this week's developments in the Post Office Horizon inquiry and the Scots sub-postmasters who've had their convictions quashed.
Plus, we look forward to this weekend's Six Nations opener and hear from 2 of Scotland's top acting talents who are starring in a brand new TV series.
Yes, join us in a few minutes over on BBC Scotland.
In the meantime, the weather. We've had some great images of beaches this week. It's Aberdeen today.
Yes, and Aberdeen was 15 degrees today,
Wow.
Sally. Warmest part of the UK. It was mild everywhere, but it certainly wasn't sunny everywhere, was it? Thank you very much indeed. Very good evening to you. Yes, many parts of the country had rather leaden skies today, with some outbreaks of rain, drizzle at times. Let me show you the satellite and radar picture. You can see the holes in the cloud there in the northeast, with temperatures up to 15 degrees, but elsewhere cloudy with some showers. Mild everywhere and a few rainbows, and certainly pretty blustery too. And those blustery winds sticking with us through the course of this evening and overnight, with further showers across parts of the far northwest, in towards the central belt and the south for a time. But actually overnight, some clear skies developing. But temperatures shouldn't fall too far because the winds will stop them from doing that. So first thing tomorrow, it's a blustery start to Saturday, and in fact a blustery day with fairly frequent showers through Argyll and the Highlands and Islands, drifting east at times towards Grampian, perhaps one or two in towards the central belt. Drier in towards the south with some sunshine. Temperatures down on today's values. We're looking at afternoon highs around 8 to 10 Celsius, but generally dry in the far south, the far northeast, but fairly frequent showers across the Highlands and Islands and into the Northern Isles as well. Perhaps the odd rumble of thunder and some hail across the Northern Isles. So for those hill walking or climbing, those showers across the west and the northwestern ranges likely to be of snow first thing, but actually the freezing level climbing through the hills during the course of the day. It will be windy no matter where you are, a significant if not severe wind chill. Eastern ranges likely to be dry with some sunshine, but the cloud building later on. Saturday evening, once again, fairly frequent blustery showers, still some gale force gusts around the north coast and the Northern Isles. Temperatures overnight Saturday night in towns and cities around 3 to 7 Celsius. And then all changes as we head through towards Sunday. So whilst Saturday is reasonably bright and sunny, Sunday is reasonably cloudy and wet, and that rain heavy and persistent through central and western parts of the country. Temperatures around 6 to 10 Celsius. Best of any brighter weather through Orkney and Shetland, but the showers here perhaps wintry right down to sea level because it will be colder. Now that wet weather on Sunday and into Sunday night, all courtesy of this warm front here, which is going to stick with us and mean the rain will become heavy and persistent. And because of that, we do have a Met Office yellow warning for that heavy rain through the course of Sunday evening and overnight into Monday, affecting the Highlands and Islands in towards parts of Stirlingshire and Perthshire. And we could well see some impacts as a result of that overnight on Sunday. That's the forecast for now.
What a rainbow. Thank you very much. Now tonight's main news again. A jury has been told that the man accused of murdering Emma Caldwell took detectives to the woods where he's alleged to have strangled her 18 years ago. Ian Packer denies all charges against him. A forester from Murray says he might have to destroy millions of trees after the Scottish Government slashed the budget for tree planting. Graham Stewart will be here with your late news at around 10:30 tonight. But until then, from everyone in the team, do enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.